Matt Lenihan, Boxing Social, in association with Empire Fight Store and Our Kings. Frank Smith, appreciate you joining us. What a fight week. Historic venue, steeped in history, the Broad Walk Column. We get number 1 versus number 2 for the unification Ring Magazine belt. Doesn't get much better, really, does it, in terms of a fight for a division?
No, look, and it just shows as well, when you see the numbers that are going to be in there tomorrow, it shows where Jaron Boots Ennis is. You know, like, people don't draw numbers like this guy's been drawing. You know, in Philadelphia, we've had 2 great nights with him. We come here to the Ballpark Hall, a historic venue that the best over the years have boxed at. And it's bringing big-time boxing back here, so it's exciting. It's going to be a big atmosphere in there. And it's number 1 against number 2. Ring Magazine title on the line, IBF, WBA. What a fight.
I heard, obviously, being in the industry, you hear about the US market, and it tends to be the last week of it where the last sort of remaining few tickets go, whereas there's a big fight in England, they tend to sell out and then go on the third market. How many tickets we left to go to a capacity? Because Eddie was hinting that we could do a full 10, and we were at 9. Where are we at?
I reckon we got not far off that, what you said there. We'll have close to 10,000 in there tomorrow. It's going to be packed in there. It's going to be some atmosphere. You know, those nights we had in Philadelphia, I think we had 15,000 the first time, 12,000. Obviously, the Karen fight, it's much harder to sell a fight where you've schooled a guy and then trying to sell that one again. But it's big, you know, it's big nights in US boxing. No one else is really doing it. You know, it just shows the levels. Like when you look at, you know, there's Canelo, obviously, there's Tank, but outside of those guys, you know, I think Jaron is there as the biggest ticket seller in American boxing.
I know you guys have always been, you know, open to working with other entities, but we've seen more recently. When I was in Vegas the other week, you were there as well, and there was a report that came out that said that Top Rank would be working closely with PBC. We've seen Tom Brown this week on stage with Eddie Hearn and talking about making fights, and had a little bit of a friendly sort of dig at every time he's been here, he's won. Is this a step in the right direction now to start collaborating a little bit more? You and Queensbury have already done it, and obviously you've done a little bit with Boxer, but this is healthy, isn't it, to make the big fights over here?
Yeah, I don't think anything's ever changed. You know, we've always been making fights. Like, you know, we've always made fights together for years. We've worked with PBC for years. Eddie's had a very good relationship with Louis de Cubas for many years. Now, we've worked together for a long time. Although it hasn't always been great, we've made fights. You know, Top Rank, we've always made fights. Golden Boy, we've always made fights. Just because optically there hasn't always been those best relationships, you know. But the timing of boxing right now is in a great place of fights being made, and that's got to be the focus. Great fights. You know, if this sport's going to grow and thrive and develop, people want to see the best fighting the best, regardless of promoters.
But it helps, doesn't it, though, if the relationships are the best and there's less point scoring. Don't get me wrong, I think
but the reality is there always will be. Like, there's always going to be back and forth.
There's less now, though, you'd say. I think there's less. I mean, a few years ago, we could get... We know, doing the interviews, speaking, there'd be the odd dig here and there. Let's just say that. There's less of that. There's more of I would say there's definitely more of a unity over the past 6 months from all corners to say, look, we've seen a model, a market that works, working together works. Let's carry it on.
Yeah. But then what I mean is, like, Bob Arum, for example, will always go for Eddie, and Eddie will always respond, but we still make fights. That's all I mean. Like, I think we've always been willing to make fights for years. That's never changed. Other people maybe haven't been willing to make fights, is the reality as well. And I think the landscape's changed for a lot of people. The market's changing for a lot of people. And yeah, look, it's good for the sport of boxing. We're all here to do the best for the sport of boxing. We want it to be as big as it possibly can.
The news came out about Dmitry Bivol just a few days ago about relinquishing the WBC title. Mauricio, someone put out saying he got a very impersonal letter from the lawyer. Then he came out in an interview and said he rejected $8 million. I think before the Beterbiev fights, we weren't told the exact numbers, but he was getting more than that to fight him, and we assume probably more for the trilogy than $8 million. What do you make about that sort of transpired from him giving the belt up to even a few people saying, wow, he's fucking fighting Benavidez? I mean, it's a wild accusation.
Yeah, like, you have to wonder whether Maurizio Sullivan in that stance was being a promoter or the running a sanctioning body, you know, with the approach he took with it. Dmitry Bivol was never shied away from anyone. He fought Canelo Alvarez, beat him, you know, ultimately the pound for pound number 1 fighter in the sport, you know. Then he went on and he fought Beterbiev, not once but twice in a 4-month period. I think he won the first fight. He didn't get the decision. I think he won it though. And then he went straight back in there with Beterbiev, who, again, everyone was the most feared fighter in planet Earth, you know, and it stopped everyone and demolished everyone, and now he's ducking Benavidez. Benavidez is a brilliant fighter, right? I don't disagree with that. But, you know, we've been talking about the trilogy. for a while. That's been the plan. He's got a contracted fight with Turki Al-Sheikh and Riyadh season. They've delivered him big nights, the biggest fights in the division. He's made a fortune, so like the whole process with the whole thing was done very strangely, and I don't think it was, from the WBC's perspective, it didn't feel like an impartial view. It felt like they wanted to get Benavidez in as champion. The purse split changed, a number of things changed all around the fight, for a purse bid as well. When Dmitry Bivol was the undisputed champion of the world and had beat the pound for pound best in the world to get to the recognition, so you can read it any which way you want.
Do you look at it from the outside going, though, providing obviously everything goes right for your man against Beterbiev in this next one, that fight is huge against Benavidez coming up. Brady keeps the belt as well, because I know there's Callum Smith lining up potentially to fight him. Has that been a talk? Could that fight get made in the interim while we wait?
For who?
For Benavidez.
That's a fight that's been discussed. But when you look at Dmitry Bivol, and you look at the biggest fights out there for him, Beterbiev is a huge fight. That trilogy is two of the best fights we've seen, and people want to see that again. And then when you look at what's next for him after that, what about Canelo Alvarez? There's been talk about Canelo Alvarez going to 175 to fight Dmitry again, or even possibly before, they've been speaking about 168. Dmitry Bivol said that in the past. I'm not sure if he could do it now, but that was one of the things looked at in the past. So, look, Dmitry Bivol's in his own lane. I'm not saying the Benavidez fight isn't big, but Dmitry Bivol's, he can call the shots.
I want to ask you about this contract situation between Ben Whittaker and Liam Cameron, just from the pure standpoint of when a fight's getting made, two separate contracts go out. So in this scenario, is it a case of one has said 10, one has said 12, or they both said 12? Have you heard anything on that? Because how does it work from your end when you make a fight? You send one to one, one to the other, they both signed, both agreed. And have you ever seen anything like this where there's, say, 8 rounds on one, 10 on the other, or there's been a clerical error like that?
It wasn't 4 rounds and 12, wasn't it? You're only arguing about 2 rounds here. It's a human error, isn't it, at the end of the day? I'm very detailed. I look at everything we do. I look at all the contracts that go out. I'm a bit sad. Like, I haven't got a life, really. So everything that's done in our business, because ultimately you get the blame for it at some point if it doesn't go right. But it's a human error. And the reality is, Liam Cameron is completely in the right. He's signed for a 12-round fight. That's what he wants, right? And if he's not going to get that, he's going to want something for it. Fair enough, right? Ben Whittaker has signed, I guess, again, I don't know because I haven't seen it, but has signed for a 10-round fight or has got an agreement for a 10-round fight. So in his mind, it's a 10-round fight. So it's not really either of the fighters' faults, right? They're just sitting there and Ben's doing his thing, Liam's doing his thing, and you're going to want to get paid, aren't you? Mm-hmm. That's the truth. Just like anything, like if you've signed up for something and then someone goes, I made a mistake. But also, I think the reality is in life as well. Sometimes it's the way it's approached, and this whole thing's been a bit of a mess where they've come out and they've gone, no, it's all sorted now, and then Liam Cameron's gone, no, it isn't. I'm fighting 12 rounds.
If you're Liam Cameron, obviously you know yourself, like the ball, the pressure's all on Ben Whittaker going into that fight. So he could be playing going, no, we'll stick to it.
100%. No, if you're Liam Cameron, you're standing there going, I'm doing 12 rounds because that's what I've signed up for. Unless yeah, exactly. But fair enough. You've signed up for 12 rounds, and it's really, you feel sorry for the fighters because actually Ben's not, it's not either of their fault. It's amateur hour, really. That's the truth of it. Like, let's be completely open without naming names. It's amateur hour, and Ben Whittaker's been made to look like he's been a bit embarrassed. And again, it's not his fault. So I'm not in any way saying it's on him. But, you think you'd come out and go, do you know what, I'll just do 12 rounds. Because it shows a confidence that it doesn't matter how many rounds we're doing. But again, it's not his fault. It's neither of their faults, and see. But I'm glad I'm not involved.
A couple more. Kambosos Hitchens. What can you tell us about that? That was sort of long, sort of talked about. Are we getting closer to an announcement?
We're working hard. I think we'll get there. It's a fight we're aiming to make. No announcement just yet, but yes, that is definitely a focus.
I'll talk to you. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano went to the press conference. I found a few things a bit strange, and obviously I know what goes into contracts and egos and A and B side and all this jargon and crap that goes on in the background. But when Katie Taylor's getting announced first, that's like, I was mind-boggling to me. Now, I suppose if she's getting well rewarded and the pay's right, I suppose she's not one to care. But do you find that strange when you see the way the people talking and Amanda saying, look, loads of people saw what happened, because for me, and I don't know much about it, I think around either way in either fight, I don't think anyone would have cared, and the reason we're seeing it is because it was such a good fight, not because there was any robberies. What do you make of sort of the treatment of Katie on that press conference?
Yeah, look, I think Katie deserves more respect as an individual for what she's done for the sport and the position she's got it to, because she's been a driving force for why it is where it is. I think when it comes to walking first, very strange. It's ego, isn't it? At the end of the day, look, I have a different. When I talk to fighters, if you're getting paid a lot of money, right? Sometimes I go to fighters. Who cares? Has anyone ever lost a fight because they were announced first to a stage? Like in reality, I'm not a fighter, by the way, so I'm not saying I'm right. This is just my opinion. And at the end of the day, our job is to do the best possible commercial job to deliver an opportunity for a fighter to get them well paid. And my view is, has anyone ever lost a fight or remembered who walked first in a fight? No, that's just my opinion. And sometimes it's like, are you going to lose a fight? Are you going to argue for an extra 7 days not to make a fight happen because of that? In my opinion, I don't think it's worth it all the time. I think, the approach with Katie at that press conference was, like walking out with the head guy. It was all quite disrespectful, but it is what it is. The game's the game. And I think I think Katie dealt with it perfectly. Yeah. She dealt with it perfectly. She came out, and sometimes people think because she's quiet, she hasn't got those opinions. Yeah. But everyone's different. Everyone's a different individual. She deserves the ultimate respect for why female boxing is where it is today, because I think without Katie Taylor, it wouldn't be where it is today. And the reality is Amanda Serrano needs Katie Taylor, not the other way around. Everyone needs Katie Taylor for a payday. And it's the same male-female boxing. There's always those stars. Canelo, Anthony Joshua, all these people that you can go and do really well against. But if you fight this person, not so much. And that's life. That's commercial reality. But Amanda Serrano needs Katie Taylor. And that's why you're seeing it again. 2 great fights, and this one I'm sure will be no different.
Last one from me. Shakur Stevensons here today, obviously in support of his cousin on the card, and Ray Ford as well, stablemate. Where are we at with him? Because he's been quite vocal. He doesn't really bite his tongue about anything. He says, look, the money's not what was promised, so no, this isn't happening. But hearing that the talks with Zepeda are continuing, are we getting close to a deal where he maybe comes Eddie's alluded to the fight probably lands in the US? Where are we at with that, and have yourselves and Golden Boy made any progress?
Yeah, look, there's discussions ongoing now. It's a massive fight. It's a fight ordered by the WBC. Shakur said it himself. He's not going to vacate his belt. He's there for that fight. I believe he's one of the best fighters in the world right now. And I think it's a fight you'll see. Work ongoing, and I think, like Eddie said, that's a fight that will probably end up in the US.
Frank, appreciate your time. We will catch up after this fight.
Cheers, mate. Good to see you.